journalist, and Mr. Punjab, Mr. Deepak Gupta, and friends. I know both the sessions pre-lunch and immediately post-lunch. I don't know how people enjoy it. But having said that, we have a lot of pressing issues in the renewable sector. And by way of these conferences and presentations, we tried to convey our views to the people who matter, who can take some decisions to take this sector forward. So just as a background, I'll give you a little bit about Hero Future Energies. It's a company floated by the Hero Group, famous for their motorcycles so far, and now ventured into this renewable sector 2 years back. The idea was that they were in an automotive business which is never considered clean. So this is the balancing act which the group has decided to enter into pure renewable energy play and make contributions to the environment. Well, as we move forward, as the chairperson just now said, there are many issues on policy and regulatory front. So, well, I think this is a slide which has been shown many times over in many conferences, that renewable energy is the need of the hour, and there are a lot of enablers in India at least, which actually gives renewable energy a good business proposition. Let's not talk of it as a subsidy-driven business, but it's a business which is profitable in itself. And it is the need of the hour, it's a growing business. So business needs two things, a profitability and a growth. And you have both in this business. And probably one of the rarest of business where you have a ready-made market, you have no risk of future in terms of fuel, and still we don't see the investment which has to come. It's got a stable return. What else we need? Probably the ready-made market is today slightly more expensive than the existing market, and that is what is the undoing for this sector, which is gradually in any case coming down to be on grid parity. So if you see the Indian institutional structure, we've got MNRE, we've got CRC, which is a head of the regulators, we've got a appellate tribunal, which is over and above the regulators, we've got IRDA, which is a financing arm, we've got CWET, which is now being renamed as National Institute for Wind Energy, we've got Solar Institute for Wind Energy, all under MNRE, which provide the technical and R&D support. Then we've got the state energy regulators, we've got state nodal agencies, and then we have the Ministry of Power, Central Electricity Authority. So there is a whole institutional framework in place in the country. Each one playing their role effectively or not is a question we can debate. So you have a supportory regulatory framework. Probably 2003 we had an act based on which all the regulators are governed by the act, all the state DISCOMs are governed by this act. Whether we follow the law on the act in totality is again a question mark. The act was very clear that everybody has to promote renewable energy. And we have to make the DISCOMs and everybody have to take suitable measures to provide grid connectivity to these renewable energy projects. And then there was a tariff policy which introduced a mechanism of renewable energy certificates which would need to be evolved. It evolved, but unfortunately it died too quickly before it could really stabilize. So this is where we stand today, and the green ones is talking about the total potential. Please do not go by the potential numbers of solar, because the solar numbers are maybe 10 times more than what they have been projected. But what I'm trying to show here is the absolutely feasible number. which is possible is as I'm speaking today. So I'm giving you those numbers. Even in case of wind, 80,000 megawatts is a number which we are talking today is absolutely practically possible. Otherwise, the numbers are ranging from 100,000 to 300,000. And solar is, of course, unlimited depending on the land area available. So you can put up solar anywhere. But having said that, even the practically possible, which we are talking today, you got 172 gigawatt. Now imagine you are just at 30. So you still have 6 times the potential, which is absolutely possible. And knowing our pace, probably we are booked for next 10 to 20 years if we have to achieve it at a very, very high growth pace. So since the session talks about the policy and regulatory issues, what we have listed out is that one is an open access. So if we read the Act says every state is supposed to provide open access to any generator. It has nothing to do with renewables, but every generator. And renewable is no exception. But the problem is, majority of the state governments and the DISCOMs have never allowed that. We have one regulator here only, but many of the regulators are not here. And unfortunately, the regulators have also turned a blind eye to all the petitions being filed because they have been under pressure from the political masters of the states that open access is not allowed. You're not allowed to take power from one state to the other. A typical problem for the renewable energy has been that whatever open access charges have been, they have been based on the capacity of megawatt installed. Even if they give me an open access or within the intrastate also, the intrastate charges are also based on, suppose I put up a 20 megawatt solar project, they will charge me for 20 megawatt energy on basis of my capacity. But actually my energy is only 1/5. So what happens is I end up paying 5 times the charges for open access compared to a conventional power. The rationale what a transmission utility says that I installed the capacity based on that megawatt and therefore I need to be paid. But having said that, we know that none of the transmission capacity which came up in this country ever accounted for the transmission of renewables. They were always based on thermal. And if there is spare capacity, and if you can do it on energy basis, I think so the renewable energy is home. One big issue which all DISCOMs, utilities, transmission companies say is that we are an infirm power. Renewable is an infirm power. Absolutely right. So CRC introduced the scheduling and forecasting mechanism, but as it happens in the country, we came out with a mechanism which was, unheard of in the world, where we used one mechanism which had a different use to be employed on scheduling and forecasting. That was a UI mechanism. UI mechanism came into the country to penalize states and DISCOMs who would overdraw power or undersupply power. And that was an old thing. Here, you are asked to do scheduling and forecasting on a 10 minutes interval basis. And if you do not comply with that 10-minute interval, you will be penalized based on UI charges. And therefore the industry reacted. Anyway, the good sense prevailed and the central regulator agreed to review the mechanism. And I think so scheduling and forecasting is very good for the industry. It should come, but should be followed what we have in Europe and US on a more larger base, not on individual wind farm basis. Renewable purchase obligation. It is coming from the Act where it was said that everybody should buy renewable power. There were fixed RPOs for every state in terms of percentage increasing year on year. And if we go by National Action Plan for Climate Change, initiated by the earlier Prime Minister, we need 15% energy by 2020. I'm talking in terms of energy, not in terms of capacity. If we were to actually achieve that, we would need almost 100,000 megawatt of renewable energy capacity in the country. Now, unfortunately, none of the DISCOMs follow these RPO obligations. and there are no penal mechanisms also on them. And therefore they are not interested in buying this power. Mr. Panjar has already said that grid connectivity and transmission infrastructure probably is the biggest bottleneck. And this bottleneck is for renewables as well as for thermal. I think that the country focused a lot on generation. We achieved something on generation, but forgot to focus on transmission, which is now back into focus. And hopefully that with the green corridor coming in, things would come up. The biggest issue we have, another one, is that there is no long-term policy visibility. All states for renewables announce policy for 1 year, 2 years. The tariff is announced every year. A project which is required to be commissioned in 18 to 24 months does not know what the tariff will be next year, whether it will go up or go down. And therefore, you are afraid to invest. My previous speakers have talked about policy on repowering. There's an absence of repowering policy, which probably is required because there are many projects with excellent sites which have got old technology turbines. Today's turbines can generate almost 4 times the energy at the same site what they are generating today. This is a slide where I'm just talking about state level policy issues, Maharashtra, a very progressive state, but last 2 years has created havoc, but not signing PPAs for wind, not allowing private developers to sell power, solar power to discoms. Private solar developers are not allowed to even sell power to third parties or to private consumers. So Maharashtra has been trying to, act as a big daddy and creating hurdles. Some sense has prevailed in last 1 or 2 months, but lot needs to be done. Tamil Nadu, the tariff is extremely low, both for wind and for solar. Evacuation infrastructure has been the most serious bottleneck in development. If you see that in Tamil Nadu, the RE installments have gone down by almost 85% in the state. Now that's a huge dip. The highest Tamil Nadu has installed in a year in wind is 1200 megawatts. And last year they did only 120 megawatts. That's the kind of drop they've seen. Karnataka, almost similar to Tamil Nadu, except that the evacuation is not an issue, but there are serious land issues in Karnataka. Rajasthan, again very progressive in renewables, but change of regimes creates problems. There's a policy flip-flop happening, competitive bidding going to happen, not going to happen, and people did not invest. So last year, 2 years back, Rajasthan did 660 megawatt in wind, and last year they did 40 megawatt. So just to give you an idea that this is what happens when there's a policy flip-flop, and how does one invest? Rajasthan has been talking of a local state solar program, but unfortunately, in last 3 years, hardly anything has come up in state program. Whatever has come up is under the central program. Well, Madhya Pradesh is one state which is really progressing very, very fast in renewable. I think so. They have tweaked their policies in accordance with the wishes of the investors and the requirements of the people. So we will see a big jump in Madhya Pradesh in next 2 years. Probably they will become one of the front-running states in the country. Gujarat, after their solar program of 1000 megawatts, there's nothing to talk about both in wind and solar. And they still stand as it is. And we hope the Prime Minister from Gujarat will do something to change it. Well, these are the solutions what I was offering to what we have spoken on the problem, because we can talk of problems, but we have to offer solutions. So open access is something which I think so the regulators have to act. There is no other way. We have to get into the Renewable Electricity Act, enforce it in totality. If you do that, I don't think so you need anything else. Scheduling and forecasting is very, very common in Europe and this thing, and I think so there is no need to reinvent the wheel. We should follow that model, and it's very, very successful. If you talk in terms of energy, in any case in India, in terms of energy, renewable is only 5% of the total energy. I'm talking about energy, not in capacity. Germany is 26%, US is 25%, Spain 30%, Denmark 50%. When these countries can manage their grids, why not we? So this story of DISCOM not able to manage the grid, I think so is slightly far-fetched. The issue is that they don't want to buy this power and slightly more expensive than their old conventional power. RPO again is a regulatory issue, but one more issue what is required is that we have to make REC as a legal tender. REC today is not a legal tender. Like a share certificate is a legal tender by an act. REC is not. REC is only an instrument which was started by MNRE in consultation with CRC to promote renewable. But if it is challenged by DISCOMs in the court of law, it will be thrown out. REC has no legal sanctity. So we have to bring in a legal sanctity to REC and regulators' enforcement of RPOs. Well, grid connectivity, I think so, nothing needs to be spoken that we need to invest. Green corridor is probably one of the best step in the right direction. Money is also going to come in. The issue will be how do we implement it at the earliest. You know, if the green corridor comes in, I think so the renewable energy will get a huge flip and we can achieve that 100 megawatt thousand target. Otherwise, I don't think so we are anywhere near even to 50,000 megawatts. Secondly, whatever tariff you want to announce, please announce tariff, but announce it for 5 years. Or you link it to some indexation in terms of interest rate, and that's all. Let the developer absorb the increase in capex, they will do it happily, provided you give him long-term visibility. Let the tariff be for 5 years that, okay, from this year till 5 years, this is the tariff. I know what I'm going to get next 5 years, I will plan my product capacities accordingly, my projects accordingly. I'm always, whenever March comes in, I have sleepless nights, oh, what is the regulator going to do? And that also he will announce it in August. He's supposed to announce in March. He will announce the tariff in August. So this is something which seriously needs a thinking. Repowering, I think so. There are only 3 states which are right now involved: Maharashtra, Gujarat, and Tamil Nadu. These state governments, along with central government, have to actively think on a repowering policy. It will do a lot of service to the government because you will get, at least in energy terms, you will get 3 or 4 times the energy. So the future roadmap, what we are talking about is that, we have done resource mapping in wind, but similarly in solar, is being attempted by CWED. They have done some good work, but lot needs to be done, I think so. And what we need to do is, after doing resource mapping, we have to do classification. If we see whatever has been installed in solar in last 3 years, it's been Gujarat, Rajasthan, and some bit of Madhya Pradesh. We have left out more than 3/4 of the country. We need classification, and we have to go east where getting to the grid is very big issue. Why not go off grid and give them a classification and tariff based on that classification? That's important. So another way of easing things is land use changes, developing SEZs. One thing what we are talking new is that why don't we use the different government schemes? Pradhan Mantri Gramin Sadak Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Vidyutkaran Yojana for villages, and NREGA. Let's combine them to develop the renewable energy infrastructure, which also is almost 20% of the cost of a project. So you need access road in villages, you need internal transmission lines. Use the same transmission lines for transmitting power to the main substation, which you are using for electrification of the villages. It will involve a slightly higher capex, but then it will do 2-in-1 purpose. You will not be duplicating the resources and the capital. I'm not saying it will be possible everywhere, but it is even if you are going to do it in 30-40% of the cases, this will reduce the project cost. Government will not have to give subsidy because that subsidy is already going into these 3 schemes. Secondly is creating suitable power generation systems. Today that is another big problem. We have been creating small substations. Let us look at future. If we know renewables is going to come, we need to build spare capacities so that you do not double up the infrastructure costs. So this is what I want to say. Thank you.